First Timothy chapter 5 and verse 6. But she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth. Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is your brother Hawayala. I want to give all glory and praises to our Heavenly Father Yahweh. In the name of our Lord and Savior Yahawashi, grace and mercy be abound to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth that are waiting on the second coming of our Lord and Savior Yahawashi HaMashiach, who is the author and finisher of our faith, who will come back to judge the quick and the dead and reign over an everlasting kingdom in righteousness. Wanted to go over this particular topic. Waited a few days just to make sure that enough information was accurate concerning this situation because it is a sensitive topic, and one thing we don't want to do is, basically make up rumors and some of the things that we were seeing when it first happened. Heard about the news because there's some people that are here locally in the Houston area that I follow, and they were hearing about a rumor that she had passed, and information started floating around social media not too long after that, and much of the information was false. A lot of the stuff that was made up concerning her situation before it was known how she died. There was people that were saying that she was robbed. There was people that saying that she had AIDS and died. Some people said it was a botched surgery. Another person, was saying, something else, just concerning saying that she had a particular pimp that was associated with another woman that had died, not a few weeks ago, which I will actually go into that story because there is a little bit of a tie to it, but it's not what it was presented by many of the people that were making rumors. And one of the things that people have to be careful of is slander, okay? And gossip, a lot of times, that is spread around, especially amongst our people, a lot of times ends up being found out to not be true, and it really leads to slander, which is against the law. So the information I'm going to bring out is stuff that can be verifiable, and also just a stark warning to the sisters of our nation out there that to not live this particular life, and also for men to understand the dangers of dealing with a woman that's in this particular life. Now, this particular situation with this woman, Mercedes Morr, is just more of an example for us, okay? And it's not to some way denigrate her or to disparage her or her family, but it's just more of a warning, because we know that where there's no vision, that people perish, and we know our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And it's very clear that many of the things that we've been taught growing up, many of the things that maybe even her parents instilled into her, were probably wrong and led to the lifestyle that she ended up living, and ultimately led to her what we would call an untimely death. But life and death is in the power of the Most High. So at the end of the day, this was something that was done really to probably send shockwaves to many, women. And I'll go over both tragedies as we've seen in the title. Hot Girl Summer ends tragically, right? So as we're going to go on into this video, and by the way, this woman actually lived a few minutes away from me. The apartment complex that she stayed at is not too far from where I live, and it is a very nice apartment complex. You'd have to have some, decent money to live there, and it is very secure. It's actually one of the most secure apartment complexes that I've been in, just based on the way it's set up. It's set up to be very hard for somebody to do something and get in and out, the way the gate is set up. And there's a lot of cameras. There's a lot of people with security cameras on the outside of their apartments. It's kind of more of apartment homes and garages. And it's a place that you wouldn't expect something to happen, because it is a very quiet area. The area has barely any crime as far as in that particular part, because there's so many police officers through there. There's a hospital there. There's always cars coming in and out, and it's so many police officers that come in and around that same area that if something were to happen, it's very easy for them to respond, because they literally are up and down that area. There's a big church that's actually over there too. So I'm going to play some of this so we can kind of get a good understanding of her. This is her name, Mercedes Morr. And I've never saw her. I know that she lived in the same area as me, because I know she got very popular back when Instagram came up. She got very popular on social media. As it's reported, she had over 2.5 or 2.6 million followers. So a lot of people knew her, at least in the city, at least locally, and then she was known pretty much nationally by a lot of other people as being an IG model, okay, which is something that a lot of our young ladies are into, okay, as far as looking up to them. So let's go ahead and play this, and we're going to get a little bit of information, and we'll kind of, get some commentary about, some of the things that are being said in this.
Incredibly tragic story here. We have learned new information that the 33-year-old social media model was strangled to death. That's according to the Fort Bend County Medical Examiner's Office, and police are also now trying to figure out a timeline of when this all may have happened, and also shared with us that they have not seen any signs of forced entry to the apartment. The details still murky as to what led up to the horrific murder of 33-year-old Janae Gagnier, known as Miss Mercedes Morr on social media, with a following of 2.6 million.
We want to find out why her, why him.
The body of the woman was discovered Sunday afternoon inside her apartment at the Cortland Sugarland complex. According to the medical examiner, she died of strangulation and traumatic concussion in what police are investigating as a murder-suicide. A second body also found. Richmond police say it belongs to this man, 34-year-old Kevin Accordo, who died by suicide caused by multiple sharp force trauma.
We found her in her apartment doing a welfare check. People haven't heard from her in a couple days.
So basically here they're 33 years old, and that makes sense because she probably started IG became very popular 2012, 2013, and kept on going up from there. So 33 years old, for a woman, okay, and we say this again, us being in Babylon has messed up the minds of our people. That's why some of these things that will be said are going to be foreign concepts to a lot of people, all right? But at 33 years old, a woman is supposed to already be married and have married children and be gotten a house. She should basically be considered out of the dating market, out of the courting market, okay? Meaning she should have already been paired off to a man. But because we're in a fallen world, because we're in a society that is completely opposite to the scriptures, she's 33 years old, still basically running around. And there are pictures on her Instagram with her showing what appears to be an engagement ring, a very, very nice ring. We don't know who bought it. It was pointed out to one of the brothers that actually had seen it. One of the brothers that told me, like, hey, this girl had an engagement ring. So what we also have to ask ourselves is, what was this ring for? Who gave it to her? And then also, did she have a fiance or was she married? And if that's the case, why haven't we heard from that particular individual, right? So we know that the family, friends have said that, didn't say anything in regards to a person that was with her as far as a relationship. So we still don't know exactly those details concerning that. But this is a woman who was highly sought after by many men, all right? But what I've always said, and I've said it before many times, that many of these girls that are considered highly attractive in this society, it's a curse. It's like a curse unto them, because their beauty is put on display for the world to see. And then you got men from all over the world. This guy came all the way from Florida to Houston, all right, to see her. Now, as far as their relationship, there was word, some people were saying that he may have been an OnlyFans subscriber, that was messaging her and she was basically getting money out of him. He was sending a lot of money. We don't know the details, but that stuff will come out. However, it appears that he did have some kind of a relationship with her, whether it was a relationship that was transactional or whether it was an obsession, we don't know. But we do know that this guy had a level of obsession over her. And this is one of the issues that happens with a lot of young ladies, is that because they understand that their attractiveness can bring them resources, attention, and even fame, a lot of times these women are using this to manipulate men to get things what they want out of men. And that in and of itself is out of order, and that in and of itself is a form of prostitution, okay? And a lot of people don't look at it that way because of the fact that we're in this society. But when you look at that energy of receiving something from a man who is not a family member, who's not your husband, those relationships are satanic in nature. And because they're satanic in nature, there is no covering for it, okay? And there is no hedge and protection for these type of situations, okay? And this is what it can lead to. We understand that this is the end game, the end result. And many of our young ladies, our young women of our nation are not able to foresee the end game and how this can end up tragically for them, okay? Because they're just living in the moment. And it's unfortunate that this happened, but this is a story that has happened many times over, and it will continue to increase and happen as the days progress, okay? Because we are in the end times, and we understand that in the end times that it said that the love of many will wax cold, all right? Because sin and iniquity will abound, all right? So let's go ahead and continue on and see what else they have to say concerning this.
It was the woman's family that called police asking for a welfare check on Sunday. Gagnier's father was with officers when they made the gruesome discovery.
People were asking about the relationship between her and the suspect. And at this time, we are doing some investigating on social media to determine if there is an exact cause.
And investigators would not share with us whether or not anything was taken from inside of this woman's apartment. And they also tell us that the last known address for the suspect in this case is out of Florida.
Okay. All right. So this is the first story. Now, this is actually kind of, as far as in Houston, this is a big story that happened and it was known nationally. But this is, you see here, August 17th. So this is not too long before this happened, okay? And a lot of these girls, they know each other that are in the Houston area. A lot of these Instagram models that are very big in Houston, and a lot of these women that are strippers, they all know each other, especially a lot of them that are around the same age, because a lot of these women were around the same age when Instagram came, and they all basically built their fame and notoriety on Instagram or through social media, and kind of made themselves names, among these different levels, maybe with club appearances, maybe dating rappers or other entertainers or athletes. Okay, and this is basically what a lot of them, want to do. And this is the glitz and the glamour lifestyle that a lot of these young women, your daughters, some of you brothers that have daughters, some of you that have sisters, young nieces, okay, cousins. This is a lot of what they look up to. And it's very important that we understand that if you are over your house as a man, you have to provide proper direction. Your wife has to be a proper example. So that way they do not fall into this. Because this woman had a father, an active father. Okay, a father that was active in her life. And they talked about how they always communicated every day. Okay, so it wasn't like she had a bad relationship with her dad on the surface level, but the relationship that she had with her dad did not lead to her living a righteous lifestyle. And that's why it says in, the law that you shouldn't cause your daughter to be a whore, all right, because the land will be filled with violence, right? And so you got people out there that are doing this because of the society that we're in, and they're basically raising their daughters to be feminists, to be open-minded, to exercise their looks and beauty in order to, get money from men that are not their husbands. Okay, and this is going to always lead to a satanic relationship with whoever they're dealing with, and it's not a lot of times going to end, good. Either they will be worn out, they'll have a lot of drama, they'll have a lot of negativity and baggage upon them, burdens that they shouldn't have. There's a lot of things that can happen to them health-wise, mentally, okay, physically, okay, definitely spiritually. All right, so this particular woman, I'm going to go into her name. Her name is Felicia Duncan, 31 years old. Okay, remember, all these women are around the same age. A lot of these women know each other, okay, from all working in different strip clubs, and some of them are right out of high school, because back in the day, if you're from Houston, you know about how it was probably 10 years ago. It was very common for a good-looking woman from your high school or from your college locally to go work part-time at a strip club or even full-time. Okay, some of these women would even graduate and do that. Okay, so a lot of these young women, when the strip club scene became very, very heavy in Houston, and there was a lot of money, a lot of entertainers and athletes were coming here, these women were all going towards this track of basically, thoughtery. Okay, the thought apocalypse occurred. All right, once social media came into play. All right, now this woman, they reported the story, but they didn't let you know where she came from work. Now I'm gonna play this. This woman got shot 50 times, Alicia Duncan. I will show a picture of her and also something else that was, done for her to kind of give you an idea of the mindset of our people. But she was shot 50 times, okay, in her garage in Katy, which is a suburb in West Houston.
Tragic story, right? She was just coming home from work when she was hit with gunfire. You can still see the remnants of it. The house behind me, most of the bullets hit the car, but you can see some bullet holes in the house. And investigators say they are not sure what the motive may be. Like she's done so many times before, Felicia Duncan pulled into her driveway this morning from work. But then 50 shots were fired toward her. She died within moments.
I was at work, for sure. I was at work. I got a phone call from my parents.
Timothy Richard grew up with Duncan and they have a son together. He was among many family members who rushed to the scene looking for answers.
There got to be something else behind this. She's not like that. She don't get into any altercations. Like I said, she's a very sweet person.
As investigators cataloged the shell casings and interviewed witnesses, Rhonda Thornton spoke for her neighborhood.
I mean, I feel safe living here. I'm never worried about closing my eyes and going to sleep, not once. So, yeah, it was kind of a shock.
In the 29 years she's lived on the same street, and in her role as block captain, the last thing she expected was that a young mother would be gunned down, and so violently.
I mean, we mostly have just a few things going on, maybe, unlocked cars getting broke into, something being stolen out of a garage. But other than that, nothing like this.
Investigators say they're uncertain if Duncan was the intended target or if something else happened. They do not believe it's a domestic situation. Richard says her son is still in disbelief.
They had a pretty good relationship. He's very aware. He's a good child.
If you have information, please call the Harris County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, so you see there, she was shot 50 times. Now, the news never let you know exactly what she did. You had people thinking that she was probably a nurse because it happened early in the morning, I think around 5 o'clock. Let me go and see. Yeah, 5:25 a.m. Okay, so they responded to the house at that time when she came back. This was on a Tuesday early morning. And so people, everybody knows that the Houston area, the city of Houston has the Texas Medical Center, which is known as I believe the largest medical center in the world, definitely in the country. And so a lot of women do work in the healthcare field, okay, and they tend to work shifts where they might work overnight. It's very common if they're a nurse. It's very common for that to happen. And so a lot of people were thinking, well, look, maybe this girl was a nurse. Well, come to find out she wasn't, okay, and none of the news stories really told you about where she came from. And I was talking to a brother, one of the brothers, and he had saw this story, and he hit me up. He said, "Have you heard about this?" I said, "Yeah, I heard about it." And when he told me he was reading about how she came back 5 o'clock in the morning, and I said, I said, more than likely she was probably followed. And I said, if a woman is not working a job at a hospital, I said she has to be working at a strip club, because I know being from Houston, you just know exactly like how things move at these times, right? So I ended up doing some more research, and I was able to find out, okay, where she worked at. Okay, now this is Club Onyx, which is a strip club in Houston, and they actually have this woman right here, okay? And this is her. Her stage name was Vanity, okay? And they basically did a set for her. Remember, her name is Felicia Duncan. That's her government name. And this is her. Her name was Vanity. And they did what's called a last stage set, okay, for her, okay? It says, "Come join us as we celebrate our loved one's life," okay? So they were going to basically do a stage set for her. The money was going to go to the son, okay? And in fact, then here's the video.
We are ready, Rich.
Don't want a copyright strike, so I'm gonna have to keep it low. But you see the video here, okay? And this is how they basically tributed, basically paid tribute to her by playing her song for her. It was more than likely, it was probably one of her favorite songs, and they threw money, and they're basically celebrating her life. Okay? This is how they're remembering her. Okay? And all these women are crying over her. But where's the talk about how does this change? Okay? No one knows really what happened. And see, this is the thing with our people. When somebody dies, no one really knows the events a lot of times that led to their death. They just say RIP and keep it moving, right? But what happened that caused this to happen to her, that she ended up dying? Okay, it's possible she might not have actually ripped somebody off, but it's possible she could have been associated with somebody that did something. Or, we don't know if there was an altercation and it led to her being followed. It's very clear that if she knew she was being followed and she was in danger, she would have called the police, right? Because this place is about 25-30 minutes away from where she lives. So she more than likely didn't even know she was being followed. So it's possible that something could have happened at another time that led to her being targeted. And to this day, no one knows what really happened in this situation. But these two people were actually tied to someone who's very popular. Let me show the picture. This is Lyra Mercer, IG Lyra Galore. Okay, who is an IG model. I believe she may have used to date, I think she might have been engaged to either Rick Ross or somebody. I don't know if it was one of these guys. I don't know if it's the guy that owns the record label that the Migos is on, Quality Control, QC, or if it was Rick Ross. I want to say it was Rick Ross that she was either dating or engaged to at some point, but they broke off the engagement. So she's from Houston, okay? And she knew both of these women. Now, this is Mercedes Morr, all right, who the first story was on. And she says, RIP Mercedes Morr. That's insane. That she says, that's crazy. 2 girls I know and dance with murdered. Okay? Within 2 weeks from each other, or roughly 2 weeks from each other, or 3 weeks, these 2 women that she knew were murdered in Houston. Okay? And it shows you just how all these women are tied. A lot of these women are tied to one another. So what is the message that they're hearing? Are they hearing to walk away from this life? Okay, to that teasing men. Remember that teasing men that are not your husbands, getting money from men that are not your husbands, is a different type of energy when you're dealing with that. Okay, that doesn't have any spiritual covering. And this is what we don't understand, is that these out of order relationships are something that are very much under a negative, low level vibration that leads to these type of things. Okay, so when you go on, this is Felicia and this is Mercedes. Okay, so these are the 2 women that their lives ended in tragedy. And like we said, this is about us learning, and sisters themselves learning about what it means to be a woman, okay, and what it means when you're out of order as a woman. Okay, a woman have roles and they have particular things that they're required to do on this earth, just as men are, right? But if you're out of order from that role, then you fall in line to potentially get destroyed, right? Now, this is something that I saw on another website. I don't know if this is associated with this man, but I'm just going to show you an example. Now, this is in one of Mercedes' posts, okay? One of Mercedes' posts, there was a guy that said this about 67 weeks ago. This is a screen capture that someone put on a forum from one of her posts. And you see, of course, the people saying, wow, thick and beautiful, yada, 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 right? Now, peep this. This guy, Davididu, he says, I am going to make your life a living hell on earth. They will find out you are a user and a mind manipulator. I'm going to tell all the men what kind of woman you truly are. So you got somebody here that's writing this that's disgruntled. And remember, one thing you got to remember, she was 33 years old. This, she was more than likely doing this to guys for years. So a lot of times this type of stuff catches up to these women later because they've come across so many men that have given them money, showered them with gifts, guys that they've curved, guys that they've ghosted, okay, guys that they've manipulated to send money. I mean, a lot of brothers that have dealt with women like this or come across women like this, you know how many guys are literally played every day around the country. And one thing that is very fortunate for a lot of women is that a lot of men don't snap and go crazy like this guy did. Now, why am I showing this? I'm showing this in part because of the next message, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. Now, when you go here, this is the screenshot, all right, from one of the news broadcasts. It says, murdered model's family believes she was stalked by follower. Now, one of her sisters, I believe she has one sister, she was saying, oh, y'all don't know what you're talking about. This guy was a stranger. He just stalked her, yada, yada, yada. But let me tell you something. If this guy was a stalker and she knew about this guy and this guy was really a danger and making threats, they would have basically had some kind of a police report on this guy. They would have known about him, and she would have things probably would have been handled maybe differently. However, when you read this, right, this is written, the man wrote this. This is in her apartment. Okay, remember, he came to her place all the way from Florida. Now, again, we don't know if they knew each other personally or if he basically found out where she lived and he decided to come to Florida because he did not have a Houston or address in the Texas at all. So we don't understand. We're still going to find out that. But this is stuff that we can actually talk about in regards to this. I wish I never loved her. Okay. Now, again, this guy could be a guy that's obsessed. We're not saying they were in a relationship, but we don't know exactly what he was doing for her or how he viewed her and what was going on with this. There's other stuff here that was written, but unfortunately, not able to capture it. But this was written with her lipstick. The guy wrote this with her lipstick. I guess after he probably strangled her, more than likely, and either before or after he had harmed himself, which led to his death. Okay, and so this is part of the evidence of the crime scene that's going to be taken into consideration. And then, of course, they will do their other digital forensics, look at the phone calls, if they contacted each other, what their history was, email, text messages. And they'll eventually, this should be probably pretty easy to figure out the motive behind this and how long they either were in contact with each other as well. So now, we have to go to the flip side for the fellas, all right? Strictly for the fellas, you know what I'm saying? Well, we have to also understand that the Bible, in and of itself, in regards to male and female relationships, you rarely, you really have to be hard pressed to find many scriptures that tell women how they should behave, because in the scriptures, men have authority over women. Now, there are advices for women as well. And so I'll give, just an example of one of those advices that are given. Now, this is, if you scroll down, that's 1 Timothy chapter 5. If we go down to we'll start at verse 13. Says, and withal they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. I will therefore that the younger woman marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully, for some are already turned aside after Satan. Now, why is this important to understand? Because what happens is, if you don't marry off your daughters, then what they're going to do is they're going to turn aside after Satan. And how they're going to do it? They're going to do it through the feminism. Okay, the feminist doctrine that has already been pushed is right there for them to build their own psychological foundation off of. and it's going to basically determine their behavioral patterns. Okay, this is the reason why you have things like Hot Girl Summer and all this thought rap that's going on is being promoted, is to basically continue to fuel, all right, that way of thinking, all right, which is satanic. So what we have to understand is that these younger women, they have to be married off. Unfortunately, we're in a society where the way it's set up, a man has little to no authority over his own daughter, and that's one of the reasons why you see this type of thing going on, because these things have to be established in the house, and it's between the husband and the wife have to at an early stage establish a proper standard on how they're going to rear their children, and to guide them towards this direction to where you can lead them towards marrying the one that you want them to be with, and understanding that you've done a righteous work by marrying off your daughters young. But if you don't marry off your daughters young, then don't be surprised if they end up being on the path towards these young women that ended up dying. Okay, they weren't really young, but young in the sense is that they weren't old, right? So these women, one of them left behind a son, and the other one is basically leaving behind parents and siblings that are mourning, and many friends as well. Okay, so this is one of the things where there's an advice given now that these women should marry, and many times this type of message will be relayed to the elders, okay, because this is the First Timothy. So you would establish that, hey, a lot of these young women, y'all need to get married, because if they don't get married and they're sitting around being idle, not being under a man and bearing children, they're going to naturally turn aside after Satan. Yes, you cannot hold your daughter back and just think that she's not going to be tempted of the devil to do wickedly. Okay, and this is very important to understand. Again, some of you brothers, if you have younger daughters, be prepared for this. If you do not do it, don't be surprised if you're basically upset of the lifestyle your daughter's living, and you can't control her because she's out of the house and she's doing what the heck she want to do. All right. So let's go into this for the fellas. So Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 20. Such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness. So a lot of these women, they've been taught that what they're doing is okay. They've taught that by basically, living this lifestyle, that they're empowered, that they are somehow, sticking it to the patriarchy. They're able to be independent. They're able to be strong and show themselves that they're able to do without a man. And then what happens is they become these agents of chaos. Okay, Satan takes them on this whirlwind ride where they go around, all right, messing up the lives of men. And this is the reason why we have to warn brothers about these type of things, okay? And we have to understand that this is a trap that's set up by Satan a lot of times, okay? So this is the reason why we have to understand this word, all right? And what is the proper way that we should, basically be moving in these times, right? So we don't fall victim like this guy. In fact, the guy was named, in fact, I think they named it on the actual video, the name of the guy that came from Florida, but he didn't have these words, right? He didn't have this understanding that's in the scriptures. And that's why he went towards the direction that he ended up going, all right, which is down to Sheol, all right? So this is Proverbs chapter 2 and verse 10. When wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh froward things, who leaveth the paths of righteousness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoiceth to do evil and delight in the frowardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked, and they froward in their paths, to deliver thee from the strange woman, even from the stranger which flattereth with her words. Okay? Because this is what wisdom and understanding is supposed to do. This knowledge that you get, you're supposed to apply it. And in this way, it delivers you from the strange woman. These women, that are beautiful, they know it, they're very confident. These women know how to change the tone of their voice. A lot of men are going through things in this society. A lot of men are formerly divorced, they're lonely, all right? They're basically, struggling to get by, and they seek out peace, all right, through women. And many times, this illusion of basically getting acknowledgement from a woman telling you that she cares about you. These women know how to stroke the ego and flatter with their words, because this is the tool that they use. Woman is the nature of women. Women are not strong armors. Okay, when men are in the path of wickedness, right, as we read in the previous verses before verse 16, many times what they're going to do is they're going to basically strong arm. They're going to take it through force, right? They're going to take it through violence. By force, they're going to take these things. That's how they're going to extract riches and resources out of somebody else if they're in the wicked path, is really by force. A woman is not going to necessarily do it by force, okay? Especially if she's not using a man to take things by force for her. She's going to use it through manipulation, okay? She's going to use it through flattery. She's going to use it through her seduction. And this is the ways in which she's going to coerce a man to come off that bread, all right? To come off them resources, right? To give these gifts. And many of these men get caught up because of these words and the things that these women are saying to them, okay, or doing to them, and they're coming out of their money, and they're believing that these women love them. These women establish these fake cyber relationships, and some of these men end up believing that they're really in a relationship when they're not, and they end up basically being shocked when they're rejected, okay? When their advancements are, basically rejected that they're giving towards this woman, okay? So it's very important to understand the mindset that led to this man's downfall, all right, for him to end up, taking his own life after he killed her. So let's go ahead and go to Proverbs chapter 5. Now, Proverbs chapter 5, you see here in the title, says the pitfalls of immorality. So let's go ahead and start at verse 1. My son, attend unto my wisdom and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Okay? So, this is exactly, what happened to him. The words of her, the words that she said, probably on the phone, these women can also send these audios, short messages. I'm telling you, man, the manipulation is heavy, and especially for these guys that don't know what the heck is going on. A lot of these guys are very simple-minded. A lot of these guys are not very aware of the nature of these women. And these women can send like little short messages, man. They can send little short audio messages, through like IG. And they can say, oh, how's your day going, sweetheart? And he's like, oh, man, I got this woman out in Texas. She's just such a lovely lady. He buys her a ring. He might be sending her money. You know what I'm saying? He's clearing out his bank account for her. His paycheck come through. He's sending her money. And so he's just wrapped up in the mind of this woman, and she's just taking more and more and more. Okay? Until these actions that Satan is leading her to leads him into an early grave. Okay? Let's continue on. Verse 6. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. See? You can't even figure out how she's moving. You think you're the only one. You don't know how you can't even know how she's moving. That's why a lot of times when these guys find out, this chick been playing me the whole time, she don't really want me. You just like, whoa, how did she do all this? You know, and again, I'm not, and so, you know, again, for this, there's no proof that there was an actual sexual relationship between the two, so we're not going to imply that, right? Until it's actually proven that something happened. But he couldn't ponder, like, man, what is this woman up to? He don't know. The way she moving is in such a way, the way she's talking to him, he don't know that she's moving a certain way until later he finds out and he gets upset, right? And then that being upset leads to what? Ashamed, embarrassment. And many times that's, once someone hits that level of shame and embarrassment, there's usually two ways for a man to react. Either he's going to humble himself and he's going to say, you know what, I got to hold that L. Or he's going to be like, you know what, I'm angry. And that anger and rage is going to be let out differently. Okay? And that's what a lot of these sisters don't understand. And I've always said it before. A lot of these sisters don't understand that some of these men are on the edge, all right, of that kill switch in their mind going. And once that kill switch comes, it's basically it's what people call they black out. And more than likely that's what happened. He blacked out. He probably tried to, you know, calm him down, probably said, hey, you know, I'm sorry, you know, tried to say, you're such a great person. I know there's somebody out there for you. He probably couldn't hear that. All he could think about is the embarrassment, the trip. He probably drove, or maybe he flew. He's probably thinking about all the money he spent, or maybe the image in his mind. Maybe he had, fake, false vision of the life that they were going to have together. That's the type of stuff that's there. Okay? That's the type of stuff that happens in the minds of some of these men. Okay? So continuing on, verse 7. Hear me now, therefore, O ye children, depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house. Okay? He didn't do that. He actually came near to the door of her house. In fact, he went through the door. Okay? It's very apparent according to the news story. Lest thou give thine honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel, lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. And thou mourn at the last, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed, and say, how have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof. Okay, because guess what? When someone passes, their conscience still remains. It's just separated from the physical body. And it goes down to Sheol. And that's when people begin to ponder and say, why did I make that decision that I made when I was in the body? And that's how, we don't want to be thinking in the last days, because we don't understand the final judgment thereof, right? The eternal judgment. Okay, so, this is something that we will probably, try and see if we can build upon moving forward. And also, concerning the page, as you see, that we're back up and, going to start trying to post some content. As you know, we've been battling back and forth over the years with the powers that be that control this website. And, we've gotten many strikes, and we've almost been on the brink of losing the channel many times. So we highly recommend that you go to our other channels, Church Yah Bashim Yahshai Ba, Church Yah Bashim Yahshai is lit. We also have the Spiritual Art of War page, and then we also have the BitChute page. We will not be putting content on Patreon as of right now. We feel like it's better format for brothers to use the BitChute page for the uncensored lessons, for the lessons that we have to re-upload that we weren't able to keep on because of the censorship that's going on. So if we get more, go more into detail on certain subjects that we can't really go deep into, we have to put it on another platform. More than likely, we will create another platform as well, because, we don't know what's going to happen as far as this particular YouTube channel and YouTube in general, just because of the fact that they are part of a bigger agenda, and there is censorship that is going on. So we have to be aware of that. So we want to make sure that you are very familiar with the other channels that you can subscribe. Definitely get on that BitChute as well. We'll be putting constant content on there to edify the hopeful elect, that you may be able to understand fully what is going on, so that way you're not taken aback by any surprises that are to come upon the earth. So hopefully, this is edifying. And again, I want to give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahawashi. Shalom.